Welcome back to another episode of the Untitled Football Podcast, coming to you every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 a.m. in the morning. Need you guys to like, subscribe, all that stuff, follow my Twitter, it's in the thing. I guess I'm going to start selling out now. We're going to review all the games, review and preview all the games. Reviews on Tuesday, previews on Thursday until the offseason. So, using advanced analytics. So, we're going to go into week number 7, the review. Talk about a lot of the stuff that happened. We're going to start off with the Giants versus the Eagles on Thursday night. You know, this game was a perfect representation of the NFC East. Daniel Jones, or a play in specific, Daniel Jones running about like 70 yards, getting almost as fast as Tyreek Hill. That's the flaws with the NGS speed thing. Literally anybody who has a stretch of about 50 or more yards is gonna be high on the speed thing. That's like literally what the whole thing is based on. How long you went in a straight line and how fast you went in a straight line. Because if you don't have, there's no way in hell Daniel Jones is anywhere close to as fast as Tyreek Hill, but he's gonna look like it on NGS when he has 80 free yards to run. But the difference between Tyreek and Daniel Jones is Daniel Jones tumbled over. Fell over himself, flipping around, rolling around on the ground. That's the NFC East in a nutshell, man. It's just a depressing division overall. Dallas sucks, especially with Dak gone. Dallas is fucking terrible. Philly's not good. They might be the best team of the division again. They might just make the playoffs out of necessity because a team has to make it. The Giants suck. Washington isn't that good. It's a race to 5 games. Whoever wins 5 games wins the whole thing. Most likely, at least. The division winner, realistically, there is no realistic expectation. This division is terrible. It's possibly 6 wins to make the playoffs. This division's garbage. So, yeah. But anyway, though, this game was flat this game was as advertised for about the whole first half, especially with that Daniel Jones play. That was in the second half, right, though? Yeah. But, it went in the half 10-7. It was a pretty flat game. And then, Carson Wentz was actually pretty solid in the second half / mainly the fourth quarter. Made a really great throw to Boston Scott. I think after the Daniel Jones fumble, or was it before? I'm not 100% sure of the order that happened in, but they both happened. Made a really good throw to Boston Scott to win the game. Amazing throw. He's not good per se, though he's not terrible anymore. Carson Wentz is this is Carson Wentz. You're probably never, ever going to get the 2017 MVP Wentz ever again. But at least right now, he's able to and he threw some terrible throws, but at least he's able to offset those terrible throws with some pretty good ones, like the one to Boston Scott. And it also helps that you're playing up against the Giants, who also can't move the football. So, yeah. What was the total for this game? I think it went under anyway because it was 43 total. I don't foresee total being that low, but it possibly was. These two teams aren't that good. Both of these two teams are terrible, and they showed it. They really showed it. One of these teams is gonna host a playoff game, and that's the saddest thing about all of it. Is that one of these teams are going to host a playoff game. Not it does matter, especially if it's Philadelphia, who it looks like it probably is at this point. Going to be Philadelphia. Outside, cold weather. That's going to matter. I think that matters more anyway. I think the the crowd is way overvalued. It probably doesn't matter. It probably matters less than people think it does on the field, but I think it matters in terms of getting calls from the referee and getting some more favorable officiating when they hear the crowd like you like it's more likely to go in that direction. I think that's where the home field advantage, the crowd in the home field advantage shows itself up. I think the weather is a bit bigger of a factor, especially for someone, and mainly for people going from dome to outdoors. Like if you're going from outdoors, it probably doesn't affect anything too much. But if you're going from dome to outdoors, like if you're Breeze, Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers, or any of those teams in a dome, and you're going from dome to outdoors, like you're going from New Orleans to Chicago, like Breeze is next week, that might look bad. You're going from New Orleans to Chicago, it's like big difference there, big difference. Or New Orleans to Lambeau Field, big difference. But yeah, I spent too much time on this game again. So let's go on to the next one though. Saints versus Panthers. Oh, the Saints beat the Panthers 27-24 at home. Not like it really mattered, but yeah. The Panthers covered 5. I think that was the spread for that game. I actually don't have it in front of me right now. I don't remember it by heart. But actually, I could actually look it up. But it'd take a bit. Maybe not. It's actually right here. But they ended up winning the not winning the game. The Saints ended up winning the game still. And I mean, the Saints are a weird team. I mean, Drew Brees looked better this game than he probably has all season. Like, he still didn't throw a deep pass, but I mean, that doesn't matter. Like, I mean, you could scheme up like a floater, like he's been doing that all season. But like the fact that people think that it's just happened this year is kind of weird. The reason why I'm more concerned is because everything else also looked worse. Like, he overall just looked worse from an accuracy, ball placement standpoint. It all looked worse, and I think it's tied to a steeper decline in his arm that was already declining. Like, he never had a cannon for an arm, and now you add even more regression from to his arm than like normal. I mean, not than normal. You add a little bit more decline to his arm than damn. Fuck it. But the intermediate stuff looked way better this game. He hit a nice throw to Jared Cook. I mean, Alvin Kamara is still picking up a ton of yards after the catch. Though, when you go back and look at the actual output, like, he only had 8.1 yards per attempt, which was the lowest on the team. So I guess that kind of shows how, or not how, but more like why running backs might not be that valuable, because he's breaking like 8 tackles a damn play in some cases, still only finishing the game with 8.1 yards per reception, which was the lowest on the team out of anybody with 3 or more targets. So, I mean, yeah. Teddy Bridgewater on the other side, though, actually pretty damn good. Made some throws out of the pocket under pressure. They threw some nice deep balls. Like, Teddy's not been great all year. Like, he hasn't been great this year, but he hasn't been bad, like completely bad either. Like, I think the people saying he's like a top tier quarterback are overrating him, mainly because of win total, which isn't a stat that we should ever go by to evaluate quarterbacks ever. I mean, I think it does show something over a larger sample size, like the fact that Brady has like a 90% win percentage or whatever the fuck he has, and the fact that Russell Wilson has like a 70% win percentage over the course of his career, and that Eli Manning is like 50%, like he's 500 on his career. I think there it starts to actually become something that should be used as an evaluation in a way. It should never be the end-all be-all. It should only be a very tiny part of your player evaluation. But Teddy hasn't been amazing. The offense has actually been pretty good, though. Like, ever since McCaffrey went down, the offense just rose from the ashes. No, it's actually fluttered in terms of EPA per play in the past couple of weeks. Like, it was at number 7. Like, before last week, I think. It was, like, number 7. Now they're 12th, which is still pretty solid. I mean, they're above the Rams, the 49ers. Like, they're pretty good. I mean, they're okay. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater is 8th in EPA per passing play. Like, I don't think he's the 8th best quarterback. I don't think. I mean, they probably have the eighth best weapons, and to be honest, that actually doesn't. You know what? That actually doesn't. Say that Joe Brady advertised probably for the Jets because he's probably gonna match their timeline if we're tanking the shit out of this season and we're getting a franchise quarterback to build long term, or like we're building long term. Not even like they're just building long term, and Joe Brady's like 12 years old, so yeah, well, he's realistically like what 29, I think. But yeah, Joe Brady's been good. The weapons are good. So Teddy's production has been pretty damn good as well. Um, Joe Brady's creating some open throws. Teddy made some throws this game. He's normally just been a distributor. Like he's kind of like Jimmy Garoppolo. He's in more of that mold of quarterback than like maybe I don't know. I was gonna say like Patrick Mahomes, but damn well he's not in that mold. Like he's not really a guy that's gonna typically create out of structure. He's a guy that's gonna get it to the weapons for them to work. He'll occasionally make a couple throws. Like he's sort of in the Jimmy G mold. I think he might be a bit worse than Jimmy G. Actually, not this season. He's probably actually better than Jimmy G is this season. But like yeah, Teddy's okay this year, and he actually hasn't like he's been fine. Like he hasn't been elite, and Joe Brady's still been able to squeeze the eighth best yards per attempt out of him. Like, I don't know if he's in that Shanahan Reed level of offensive mastery, but he's pretty damn close already. And we kind of knew that. I mean, people might have been skeptical. That was a NFL offense in college, and the colleges weren't ready for it. Plus, Joe Burrow was the most accurate quarterback in college. Jamar Chase is a beast. Justin Jefferson's pretty good. But, like, yeah. I mean, the Panthers, I think long term, I was really low on them long term because their draft really gave them a ceiling like 7 and 9 forever. But I think if they're able to keep and retain Joe Brady, they have a pretty bright future. If they don't, then they might be in a bad way. So yeah, but let's get on to the next game though, and that game is Bills versus the Jets. A battle of the New York teams. Or, well, only one of the teams plays in New York, the other in New Jersey, but the other one has a New York name. Well, so do the Bills, but never mind. The Bills are definitely declining after that. After Josh Allen was getting MVP hype, Bills Mafia was saying, yeah, sign your Josh Allen apology form. They have literally fallen off of the biggest cliff of all time. They have fallen from grace so fucking hard that it's almost like, what happened? Everyone wants to say, oh, no, hold on. Everyone wants to say, don't overreact to 1 week until it's your favorite team. And Bills Mafia was having, your Josh Allen apology. Come on, bro. You overreacted to the best 4 games of his career. And ever since then, he's proved he's still Josh Allen. Well, let me not say that, because I don't think the Chiefs game was as bad as the stats look. And this game was definitely worse than the stats look, but his accuracy wasn't terrible. He just made awful decisions. Like terrible ones. Got away with a couple interceptions, had like a fumble. Like it's been much worse the last 3 games, and it's been much more in line with what he's done the rest of his career. Other than those 4 games, the best 4-game stretch of his career since high school. So, yeah. I mean, they didn't even cover against the Jets. But then again, I did say, if we get 2018 Josh Allen, the Jets probably cover. And what did we get? 2018 Josh Allen. Not really, though. We get a more accurate version of him. But still some terrible decisions that he still hasn't been punished for all year. He has, like the interceptions he's thrown aren't his fault, but he has, 5 terrible interceptions he's got away with that were just dropped. And, a couple fumbles. He's had amazing turnover luck his entire career, which is crazy. Because he has, 25 fumbles, but he's only lost, 3 or whatever. That's interesting. Still leads league in passing yards? Oh, no, he doesn't. He's 4th. He still had a 300-yard game. I guess that shows that this probably is a better version of Josh Allen. Well, let me not say that, because this was on brand with basically the 2018 Josh Allen. I think this shows how much the supporting cast has helped Josh Allen, that even though he played like ass today, the supporting cast can still boost his baseline and have a he hadn't had a 300-yard game at all coming into the season, and he's had like 300 yards in every game. And he didn't play good at all today. And I think that shows how much the supporting cast has boosted his floor as a quarterback. Sam Darnold on the other side of the ball, on the other side of the field, I guess. I mean, he was okay. I mean, he was fine. It almost looked like they were going to win the game. He wasn't good, but he wasn't like a complete atrocity today. Maybe not. I mean, maybe I'm just trying to skew positive. He was garbage. But the Bills were even worse, so they almost won the game. Not even worse. The Bills are terrible. Yeah, no. I was trying to skew positive on the Jets. I was trying to say something like maybe Donald didn't play that bad. Like maybe the stats aren't as bad. I don't know. Then I had to remember like really what happened. I mean, he made pretty good. The game didn't really start off that bad. Like he made some pretty good throws. I mean, or more like a pretty good. No, yeah, it was bad. But he made like a pretty good throw. Other than that, it was fucking awful. I was trying to skew positive, but nah. It was bad. I penciled some other team, or pinned some other teams in, or basically penciled some other teams in for the number one overall pick. This team is firmly in control of the number one overall pick, and they are 20-point underdogs against the Kansas City Chiefs. 20-point underdogs. This is like a college line. And I will give a little preview of the preview. I'm not going to do that, actually. I think they cover that, maybe. That's a big line. That's a lot of points. The Jets are terrible, also. But, yeah. Let's go on to the next game, though, with the Browns versus the Bengals. The Browns end up winning this game after not starting off too hot. They went down, 10 or 17? Like, they went down a pretty significant amount of points. Baker Mayfield started off the game 0 for 5 with a pick, a pretty bad pick, might I add, in which Odell tears his ACL on the exact same play. And, Baker has probably the best game of his career without Odell Beckham. And people are let me say this first. I was live tweeting during the game, should the Browns get Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields? And then Baker Mayfield comes back and plays his best game. Then Baker Mayfield, that's Justin Fields, and Baker Mayfield comes back and plays his best game. No, I'm not going to take that statement back. Baker hasn't been good all year, and it's the Bengals. I expected him to look better against the Bengals. I actually expected them to cover. Wait, did they? Or did it push? Because I think the line was 3 points. They won by 3, so it might have... I think they just pushed the line. But anyway, Baker Mayfield, after the first quarter, was 22 for 23, with his only incompletion being a spike or something. It was insane in the second half, or every quarter but the first. He was amazing. And he did it without Odell. And people are always going to say that. People think the team is actually better with Odell Beckham. I think that when you need Odell Beckham, will manifest itself when you need your best player to win a route, which he's done. And, if you look at the games, too, and especially the ones where Baker was awful, he was missing Odell Beckham wide open multiple times. But Baker just wasn't hitting it because he wasn't seeing the field well. I think when he's heavily blitzed, takes his eyes off the, when he's heavily blitzed, he takes his eyes off the field, puts his eyes down on the rushers, and then it kind of throws everything off. And that's why he's so bad, and that's why he's actually awful against the Ravens and he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL against those blitz-heavy teams. He takes his eyes off the field, puts his eyes down on the rusher, misses guys like Odell Beckham being wide open over the top or underneath. It's happened both ways. Yeah. He's good. He's in this game. amazing this game. Made some pretty good throws. I mean, had the best game of his career. Made a really good throw to Donovan Peoples-Jones to win the game. And made a nice drive. Burrow, on the other hand, like, he wasn't that great. He had a couple of interceptions dropped. I mean, other than that, he was pretty good, but, like, those are pretty significant plays. I mean, people might ask, why do dropped interceptions matter? Because if you consistently throw those, then they're not going to drop all of them. So that's why I noted. That's why it gets in. That's because it ends up manifesting itself later in the season. Like, if you have 3 interceptions drop one game, you throw 3 interceptions right at a guy again, they probably don't drop all 3 next time. But yeah, who is better though, Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert? Because I think Justin Herbert has showed like a better high end in terms of hitting deep throws, mainly because like in terms of the intermediate game, like I think significantly early, except for creating those big chunk plays. But those chunk plays just happen to be the most valuable plays that you could create. So the fact that Burrow isn't creating them at all, really, he's 17% adjusted completion percentage on deep throws, is abysmal. Like, the fact that he's not creating the chunk plays definitely sways the probably sways the public perception of the argument to Justin Herbert, because he is creating those big plays and he has a stronger arm and he gets the ball there faster and it looks good. The high end looks good, but he's not nearly as consistent as Burrow. But I'll talk more in depth about Herbert's game later. But yeah, I think his game kind of showed that he's not as consistent as consistent as Burrow. Like, I don't think his accuracy is on that level. Though he's been more accurate than I expected him to be, like way more accurate. Like, it's still not on Burrow's level. But yeah, I mean, there was 0 defense played in this game. But like I said in the preview podcast, no one has a good defense except for like maybe 2 teams. But even then, you're kind of sketchy because I don't know who legitimately has a good defense. I mean, I don't think any team really has a great there's like 2 teams, if that have a good defense. So the fact that people talk about how important defense is, and like, if you can score the ball, you're fine. Like, no one's playing defense in 2020 at any level of football, like I said in the preview podcast. So if you score, you win. And the Browns scored more points. There was a part in this game where there was just a touchdown every play, like every possession, and the Bengals had a field goal in there, and they ended up losing the game. I mean, it might not be the reason why they lost the game, but I'm just saying that's pretty interesting nugget of stuff, I guess. So yeah. On to the next game, though. Dallas versus Washington, the next game here. The game that I was probably the most wrong about, because I said that the narrative of Dallas needing Dak so badly and how the offense and the team's overall just bad was going to be overplayed, and they were going to play a pretty good game and probably blow out Washington, actually happened the complete opposite way, and Washington blew out Dallas 22-3. I mean, there was a safety in this game. Like, Dallas just isn't good. I mean, Dallas more gave the game than Washington. Like, they ran the ball to their detriment. Zeke is not a good running back. And I think, he's not a running back that should be paid $90 million. I mean, none of them are. But he definitely shouldn't be paid $90 million, as that becomes more and more apparent that he's not the best or a top 2 running back in the league, that when his O-line deteriorates, he's awful, like terrible. And, I mean, that's kind of every running back, but the fact that Zeke's getting paid $90 million to deteriorate when the offensive line does, that's probably why you don't pay a running back. And this is why Dallas is in a terrible situation, because they paid an average running back, they paid an average running back, like maybe slightly above average running back, who you give the ball to 300 times. Like, it's literally your fault why you're paying him $90 million. Like, you give him the ball 30 times a game. Like, what? Like, you give him the ball 30 times a game, literally putting you in a situation behind that O-line where he's going to be good or put good numbers up, whether he's good or not, because you look at the numbers that are more running back dependent, he's like not near the top of the league at all. Like, he's near the bottom. Like, he's like 33rd, 38th in terms of forced missed tackle percentage, which are basically the stats that are generated or basically based on the running back. And if you look at the run pass ratio that they have in the early downs, like on early downs in this game, though they were down 20 for most of the game, they still somehow managed to run the ball on 54% of their plays, which is one of the highest of the week, despite being down by a lot. I mean, once Dalton went down, I knew that was going to happen. But once they came out running the ball and putting Dalton 3rd and 8s, I knew the game is over then too. Like, it's not a great strategy, especially when you have a backup quarterback, to dig you out of 3rd and 8s consistently. Like, I don't think Dalton was awful throwing the football, but he didn't do it nearly enough to give him a chance to win. But no matter what you think about Dalton, giving him the ball rather than giving it to Zeke is a better idea and a better formula to win games. But whatever. Washington, on the other hand, played a pretty solid game. I mean, Trayvon Diggs is awful. Terry McLaurin obliterated him. And, I mean, yeah. The Cowboys aren't. Like, the Cowboys are terrible. Like, I don't know how many teams legitimately better than in the NFL anymore. They're bad. They're terrible. I mean, they still have some talent at the receiver position. I mean, like I said, no one has a good defense, and defense probably doesn't matter nearly as much as people think it does. Though, I think there is there is limits to it. Like, when you are the Cowboys, you know, there's a difference between, like, that defense and another defense that's bad, but at least going to look pretty good against bad offense. I mean, Dallas isn't there. And Dallas's offense isn't really there because they're running the ball every play, and they're really not giving themselves a chance to really even win the game. Dalton concussed. I don't know if he plays next week. If Ben DiNucci is the starter, then they play, the Giants, I think? Like, I'd probably go New York. I think New York might step on their neck, and I don't know. Because New York isn't good either. Dang, that's a tough game. And Washington's on a bye. Washington's 2nd in the division. That's crazy. But yeah. Let's go on to the next game, though, with Green Bay Packers versus the Houston Texans. Packers ended up winning 35-20. It looked like it was actually, the score doesn't really indicate how close this game was. I mean, how not so close this game was, I'll say, because the Packers kind of controlled the game for most of the game until the end. And then the Texans scored 13 points in the fourth quarter alone. When the Packers kind of took their foot off the gas. I mean, more of Aaron Rodgers. And I think, hold on. We have another backup running back showing you why paying running backs is not a good idea. Jamal Williams steps in for the injured Aaron Jones. 19 carries, 77 yards, 4.1 yards per attempt, which isn't great, actually. But, yeah. Devontae Adams, insane game. Rodgers had an insane game. He had a press conference after the Bucs game where they were like, "Oh, they figured you out," and then he just came out, proved everybody wrong again. I mean, everyone's been bad against the Texans, but like I said, using defense as an argument for the game might not be the best thing to do, as there aren't any teams in the NFL that have a good defense except for maybe 2. So yeah, Watson was solid. Like, I don't know. Because I think Watson's kind of good enough for someone that is perceived to be in this top bracket of quarterback. Like, if he was near the Mahomes Wilson level, I don't think this team would be 1-6. I don't think they'd have the 23rd EPA per play on offense. Like, if Watson was legitimately in that tier of quarterback, I don't think this team would be so bad. But the thing is that it is, which I don't know. Maybe Deshaun Watson's a bit overrated. Like, I'm not saying he's massively overrated, but I think we might think the perception that he's in that top tier of quarterback might be false. Like, I think he might be under that tier. Like, I think he might be closer to, like, maybe Dak Prescott's tier. I don't know. Because I don't think the weapons are bad enough for him to actually, for the team and the offense to be this bad. Still, to this day, be this bad. Like, he's been pretty solid, I guess, but, like, I don't know. He was good against the Titans, and I don't know. Hopefully they get a coach that can fully unlock the offense, like Eric Bieniemy or probably who the Giants should have got, probably who Dallas should have got. But for whatever reason, they wanted to get Joe Judge and get Mike McCarthy, who was already a failed coach, but whatever. It is what it is. So, yeah, let's go on to the next game, though. Wait, did I even talk about the game, or did I just talk about, well, I kind of did. I mean, Rodgers was great. Devontae was great. Rodgers made some good throws. Rodgers is in the MVP race, deep in the MVP race. But somebody, I'll talk about a little bit later, has entered their name in the race. So I've been saying it's been playing at this type of level all season. Now the stats are starting to match up. If you're a faithful listener of the podcast, you might know who I'm referring to. But on to the next game. The Atlanta Falcons versus the Detroit Lions. The game with two teams that I actually choked multiple leads this season. And, it just had to end that way. You just had to. And it had to be Atlanta because Atlanta is bad. So, damn. Atlanta they scored. This is the game of the game losing touchdown in a way. I mean, they just let the Falcons march down all the way on them. Like, I don't think scoring the touchdown is inherently bad. I mean, they gave Todd Gurley a shit ton of work. And the fact that Todd Gurley ripped off like a 15-yard run before scoring the game-losing touchdown, he still finished the game with a 2.7 average yards per attempt. What the hell were the Falcons thinking giving him the ball 23 times? Like, maybe if you give Aaron, maybe if you let Matt Ryan throw the ball, I don't know, all 23 more times, you come out with a better outcome. But instead, because Matt Ryan played a really good game today. But they gave the ball to Todd Gurley 23 more times than they should have, and they ended up losing the game. Not because of that, but in a way because of that. They gave the ball to Todd Gurley way too much that game to be as bad as he was. And then on the other side, you have the Lions doing the same damn thing. Matt Stafford played another good game as well. Matt Stafford's been a pretty good quarterback. He hasn't been nearly as good as he was in 2019. But he's been a pretty good quarterback, especially when Kenny Galladay came back. But this game, he played a really good game. And they did the exact same damn thing that the Falcons did this game. They gave the ball to Adrian Peterson 11 more times than they should have for him to have a fucking 2.6 yards per attempt. DeAndre Swift, 3 yards per attempt. Not good. None of their running backs were good. They ran the ball 18 times with their running backs to the tune of 40 total yards. 40. Or slightly above that, but it was bad. It was terrible. That's tough. Both of the quarterbacks played a really good game. But both teams ran the ball way too much. And I think this game went under the total, mainly because of that. But yeah. Wait, what the hell? That's not even the same week. Damn, it's not even showing me the totals for this past week. Dang. Anyway, though, both teams ran the ball way too much, which ended up putting this game in a weird situation. Like, if it was, I don't know, man. But Galladay had 6 catches, all 6 of which were contested catches. I think Galladay is good. But think maybe he's a tad bit overrated, and he's one of the best contested catch receivers in the NFL, but he doesn't do much of anything outside of that, which isn't the way you want to win in the NFL. Like, you want to have multiple ways to win. Like, he only does contested catches in a way. Like, he's not a good route runner particularly. Not that good after the catch either. Like, he's literally all contested catches. He's really damn good at that. But it's not a situation, it's not really the ideal thing. But yeah, the Falcons end up losing the game. The Lions win. The Lions are 3-3 now, which is interesting. I was somebody that was pretty high on the Lions coming into the season. They looked like they were disappointing in the beginning of the season. They started off with 0-2. They're 2-1 since, not 2-1. Yeah, they're 3-1 since week 3 when Kenny Golladay came back. So yeah. So Kenny Golladay is good, like I said, but like maybe he's a tad bit over. Like, I don't think he's in that top tier receiver. Like, he can literally win in one way. But yeah. On to the next game though. Tennessee Titans, Pittsburgh Steelers. I picked the Tennessee Titans in this game. I thought they would win. Mainly because I didn't think that the Steelers offense would look good. And I mean, like, they didn't for this whole second half. Like, okay, they win 27-24. They ended up covering because they were 1-point dogs, I think, coming into the game, actually. So, yeah, they ended up winning the game 27-24. Big Ben, in the beginning of the game, I would say he was probably playing his best game of the season. And then it just fell off of the rails. Had an interception at the end of the half. Not necessarily, I mean, it was his fault, but it was like a Hail Mary type thing with like 10 seconds left or like 5 seconds left, whatever, something like that. But then it just piled on. Second half, some pretty bad interceptions, some pretty bad throws. The quarterback is the weak spot of the team there. I'd say that's their only weakness, and that's not where you want to be weak at. But the thing is, Big Ben might not be a weakness. Like, he could be, like, there's games he could be good. Like, this team is kind of dangerous, though I think overall it's kind of overrated, but whatever. The Titans, on the other hand, though, Tannehill played bad. Tannehill, at one point in the game, had only thrown the ball like 15 times, and they were down 20. And Derrick Henry had like 19 carries, and they were down 20. Derrick Henry, who for some reason was getting some MVP hype after that, literally his only good game of the season, was getting some MVP hype. That shit fell straight down to earth, didn't it, huh? 3.8 yards per attempt, 75 yards. Like, the overall stats look good on the season. Because he has one game boosting his stats, and the volume is boosting his stats as well. He's on pace for 393 carries, Derrick Henry is. So, I mean, like, maybe we should come down on the MVP hype. Like, it's like people just don't give a shit about efficiency when it comes to the MVP, huh? Or, well, they do. Because, I mean, most of the time it goes to the most efficient quarterback. I get like a 1 per carry. Like, 4.1 isn't that good. But, whatever. Derrick Henry is not as good as people think he is. Like, I think he's a good back, but I don't think he's nearly as good as the perception on him. Like, the fact that people were giving him MVP hype after literally his one game above 3 yards a carry on the season, and the fact that people gave him MVP hype after that, like, he's not even a top 1 running. He's one of the best running back in the league. He might not even be top 3. I'd take Kamara and Dalvin Cook over him in an actual heartbeat. Like, he's okay. Like, he's not bad, but he's not nearly as good as people think he is. But yeah, like, maybe if they chilled out on the Derrick Henry, maybe they would have won the game because they were running the ball on like 2nd and 15 and 3rd and 17, and then you're basically signing yourself up for a punt. Like, yeah, you could throw incomplete passes, but I mean, if you actually attempt to pick up maybe half of that and give yourself a 3rd and 7 instead of running the ball, which they did, gave themselves like a 3rd and 13, you're in a much worse situation, basically waving the white flag of you want to punt the football. But yeah, the Steelers were pretty good the first half. The second half, not so much. They didn't score a point in the fourth quarter. This game probably should have went to OT, but they missed the game-winning field goal. Now, Gostkowski's my fantasy kicker. So that's tough for him to miss a field goal because I mainly picked him up after, in some of my leagues, I picked him up after he had that abysmal performance versus the Broncos. Because kicking is very volatile, and cutting someone after one game, unless the kicker gets cut in real life, isn't a great idea. So I picked him up. It's tough. He hasn't been good, but whatever. Well, he has been. He was like the number one fantasy kicker for a while, but whatever. That's a quick little fantasy spiel. Oh, and another one. When Deontay Johnson is playing for the Steelers, he is the number one receiver, not Claypool. I wanted to see if Claypool was gonna get an expanded role. He only ran like 20 routes, and Juju and Deontay ran like 39, 40-ish. Deontay led the team in targets. Didn't lead the team in yards, did he? Nah, he had 80, but he had 2 touchdowns. I mean, Deontay, in my opinion, I think he's the most talented out of all of them in a way. Like, I think he's by far the best route runner. Maybe not by far, but I think he's a better route runner than Juju. So, I think he's one of the better ones in the league, honestly. But yeah, when he's on the field, he is the number one receiver. I have him on 90% of my fantasy teams. I mean, I expected it to be better. Though he hasn't been bad when he's been on the field. The thing is, he's gotten injured in every game. So, yeah. The Steelers have a huge game against the Ravens next week. Undefeated Steelers versus the 5-1 Ravens. So yeah, let's go on to the 4:00 slate though. Bucs versus Raiders. I can hear the audio glitching. I don't know. I'm not quite sure what that is, but anyway, Bucs versus Raiders. The Bucs end up winning the game by a lot, and like I said earlier in the podcast, this is the person I was referring to that I've been saying has been playing at MVP level all year. And the numbers are finally starting to match up. Is Tom Brady. Tom Brady, former Patriots quarterback, current Buccaneers quarterback, as we all know. I mean, the weapon there. And like the one game where everybody's all healthy, the Oakland Raiders. Right now, stuff the MVP award is based off of. Tom Brady right now second in the league in touchdowns. He is 6th in yards. And, he's been amazing. And then there's people that are going to try to say it's been the weapons. Like, the weapons haven't been nearly as good as people think they have been. Like, Mike Evans has been banged up all year and lost almost all of his ability to create separation. Chris Godwin has played like 2 games. Scotty Miller, who's not even that good, was injured. Justin Watson, who's bad, was injured. They went into some of their games with down their best, three of their 5 best receivers. Like, they're not. The weapons haven't been nearly as good as people think they have been. And in terms of drops, they're second in the league, which doesn't show whether the receiver core is good or not, because I think being open shows whether they're good or not. I mean, dropping the ball isn't necessarily what you want to do, but creating separation is also really important too. But Tom Brady has been dropping dimes all year. And if you were to watch the Bucs games and then come away saying the supporting cast is the reason why his stats are so good, are you blind? But, because it's not because comparing him to the other guys that are in the MVP conversation right now, which are Wilson, Rodgers, and I guess Brady now. Wilson and Rodgers are getting easier throws created at a high level by their offensive coordinators. And Brady is and Bruce Arians is putting Brady in disadvantageous spots by falling in love with running the ball on 1st and 2nd down. So Brady's on 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 7s, 3rd and medium, instead of more 3rd and shorts. Like the Seahawks, passing the ball at the highest or one of the highest rates on early downs this season. The Bucs aren't doing that. And Brady's not getting these easier throws schemed up for him. He is actually has to he has to. Well, Rodgers and Wilson have to make throws too, but he's not getting the easy stuff schemed up to him. He's having to put stuff into tight windows, go down the field, and yeah, I mean, yeah. The Raiders no match. They came into this game as like 3.5 point dogs. Like I felt like that was way. Like the Raiders aren't that good of a team. So Brady looked amazing, but he's looked amazing all year basically. So yeah, but the stats hadn't really matched. He had an interception in the first game that wasn't really his fault. He had some drops in the first game. The second game had touchdowns, 4 touchdowns dropped in 8, or like more like 3 touchdowns dropped in a singular game. Like Brady's stats could be better. That's the whole thing about it. Like some of Brady's best throws for the first couple of weeks were being dropped. Like it's crazy. His stats could be better, and they're already great. So like statistically, he's up there in the MVP race. He's playing at that level on the field, minus a couple games where his accuracy didn't look amazing. But yeah, on to the next game though. No. I'll talk a little bit more about the game. I mean, the Raiders were. I didn't even talk about the Raiders. I mean, the Raiders were okay. I mean, they're not a great team. Like people were saying they were underrated. I mean, I didn't quite think so. I didn't think they were that good of a team. They kind of got blown out of the water from the outset. But I mean, yeah, Derek Carr is okay. He's not like I think he's overrated still. Well, statistically, he's not having a bad year, but I don't know. The Bucs might be the legitimately only good defense in the NFL. I mean, like, because you could say Steelers, but I mean, against they gave up 21 to Jeff Driscoll. So, and they gave it 21 to Jeff Driscoll. They're not. I don't think their defense is nearly as good as people think it is. But whatever. Like they literally almost lost to the Broncos with Jeff Driscoll. Now, granted, he might be the best quarterback they have on their roster because Drew Lock is awful. Which will a nice segue into the next game. Chiefs versus Broncos. It was a snowy game, and it was a snowy game. A snowy game here. And I mean, they just beat him down. Mahomes didn't even really do anything. Like, he barely threw the ball. They ran for, 8 yards, 9 yards per attempt or something like that. Like, Mahomes didn't even have to do anything. He threw the ball 23 times, only dropped back 26 times. I mean, excuse me. I mean, he didn't really have to do anything. Le'Veon had the longest run of his career since 2017 or whatever it was. I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire ran the ball pretty well. Scored a TD at least. But, Mahomes didn't do anything. He didn't have to do anything. Because Drew Lock damn sure wasn't scoring. And, he just controlled the game. He really hasn't been... He hasn't taken over a game like Mahomes normally does this season. Except for that one game against Baltimore, he hasn't really taken over a game in the way that Mahomes normally does. Chad Henne got snaps, and the thing about that is he wasn't the worst quarterback to take snaps today, as Drew Lock is really bad. Just kidding. I'm not kidding. Drew Lock is not a good quarterback in the slightest. There's almost no area he's actually good at. But whatever. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, actually, they only ran the ball 5.8 yards per attempt. But they had a punt return touchdown. I mean, a kick return touchdown. Hey. Oh, because it was like the beginning of the third quarter where they had 8 yards per attempt. The Chiefs did. I don't know. The Broncos should look to move on from Drew Lock. Didn't he get hurt again too? But they should look to move on from Drew Lock. I mean, he's really not a good quarterback. And like when he's in the game, the team has scored one touchdown or like two touchdowns on the field. I mean, I'm not saying it's his fault why they only scored two touchdowns, but I'm just saying it's something that happened. He's not like the passing offense isn't with Jeff Driscoll in the game. The offense isn't much worse with Jeff Driscoll in the game. Like Drew Lock is a bottom tier quarterback. Like that good. Like I mean, people want to look at his turnover to assist ratio. Like he had 4 yards. So I mean, of course it looked good. He wasn't throwing the ball downfield ever. So and he had the lowest percentage of catchable passes in the intermediate range. I mean, Drew Lock is not a good quarterback. He's terrible, in fact. So, I don't know. They should look to move on from Drew Lock. I don't think he's like a franchise caliber quarterback. Like you don't want to just have a guy at quarterback. You want to have the guy. Like if I have a chance to draft Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, even Kyle Trask or Zach Wilson over him, I have my question marks about Zach Wilson. I don't know if he's that type of guy, actually. But if you have a chance to draft one of those 5, hypothetically, I think they're an instant upgrade over Drew Lock because Drew Lock just isn't good. So, Drew Lock, interestingly, a better deep ball thrower than Joe Burrow this year. 30%. Honestly, I mean, he's still like the 30th in the league. Like, Drew Lock is like Josh Allen 2.0 without the high-end throws. And still the lethal inaccuracy and less mobility. I don't know where. He's not a good quarterback at all. Now, next game you might prove me wrong if they play up against someone bad. I don't know who they play up against, though. But then again, whoever they play is probably going to look better because, I mean, the Broncos offense is just bad. And defense is more based on the opponent you play. They play the Chargers. Interesting. Justin Herbert's just a better version of Locke, so we'll see which direction I go with that in the preview podcast. But on to the next game, though. We have the Chargers and the Jags. Chargers win the game. Jags almost covered. What were they, 5.5-point dogs? Yeah, I'm losing by 10. So I know they were less than 10-point favorites. This game was Let me continue what I was saying about Justin Herbert. This was a Herbert game. He's creating big chunk plays, which are the most valuable plays. He's adding some stuff with the run game. Though the accuracy, though those throws in between him creating those big chunk plays aren't so good, like he's missing these throws in the intermediate range, missing some throws in the quick, short game. I mean, he's good, like he is really good and way better than I expected him to, but I don't think he's as good as people think he is. Like, he's giving the highlight flash plays, which people will cling on to, but he's not. I don't think he's as good as some other rookie quarterbacks like Joe Burrow at those other 30 plays a game. I don't think he's nearly as consistent. Like, he's winning at the valuable stuff, so if you're going to be good at literally one thing, then it should be the deep ball. But the deep ball is also a volatile thing. But the Chargers team moves to 2-4. I mean, they have a roster that was kind of in win-now mode, though they're only 2-4, and the offense was pretty bad for the first 4 weeks of the season. I mean, a lot of guys got injured, but, like, still, yeah. Yeah, Herbert. Around halftime was when the point started to explode. So it was a little bit before that where I was like, okay, this is starting to look like Herbert did earlier in the season. Not those 2 games against the Bucs and Saints, like missing some throws. He was like 38. He was like 18 for 35 at one point. He ended up flipping that in a way as the points poured in from both sides. And it went from a pretty low-scoring game to a really high-scoring game. And Justin Herbert made some pretty good throws, and is a key part in putting those points up. Like, he is far, far better than whatever expectations I had set for him. Because I didn't think he was that good. He looks like a completely different quarterback from like a pure, even just like confidence standpoint. Because it's not like, because he was throwing a very lateral passing offense, like screens and all the stuff like that. But even still watching him, and then the metrics of the throws in the intermediate range and the deep ranges of the field weren't good. So expecting him to be as good as he has been at some of that stuff in the NFL is kind of shocking, because he wasn't good at it in college. Like, what you think he'd be good at due to his arm talent, he wasn't good at. And his processing speed and his decision-making was bad. Like, he's actually a fundamentally different quarterback. Well, his decision-making still isn't great, but like, he's the fundamentally different quarterback now than he was in college, which is interesting. He doesn't look anything like he did in college. So, yeah, he looks pretty great right now. He looks like he's probably the franchise quarterback for the Chargers, I guess. But if you're picking in the top 5, or maybe like if they're picking in the top 5 and like Trevor Lawrence, maybe not the top 5 because they won't have a pick to get Trevor Lawrence, but like, is Justin Fields better than Herbert? Maybe, I don't know. If Trevor Lawrence is an option for the Chargers team, I definitely entertain the idea and trade Herbert. Like, do you know how much you get for a Herbert trade? Because I think Trevor Lawrence is just a better version of Justin Herbert in terms of he has the arm talent, but he showed the ability to go through reads, make throws to every level of the field accurately. Like, I feel like he's already showed that in college. Like, I feel like he's further along than Herbert is now, or Herbert ever was, and he's just coming out of school. But I don't think that will be an option, because I think that they'll be a little bit better than maybe, I don't know, because I think they could beat the Broncos. I think they could beat the Raiders. They could probably beat the Dolphins. They could beat the Jets. I mean, Justin Herbert might be a better quarterback than Josh Allen already. They could beat the Bills. I mean, there's a patch of games where they could win all 5, but they could also lose to the Raiders, lose to the Dolphins, and lose to the Bills. Coming out of that stretch, only winning 1 game or 2 games. So, I mean, it's something. It's something. But Justin Herbert's potentially their franchise quarterback. He's potentially their guy. So, I mean, he might be their guy. But if Trevor Lawrence is available, I'd definitely entertain that idea. Anyway, though, on to the next game. 49ers versus Pats. 49ers step all over the Pats. Cam ends up getting benched in this game. 49ers win 33-6. I mean, this isn't quite what I expected. I actually had the Pats winning. I thought they'd bounce back in a little bit of a way. Shanahan, on the other hand, just steps all over the Pats. Jimmy G, I mean, he's playing better, but he's not. I don't know if he's playing better, because he's actually not doing anything. Just some short stuff to Deebo Samuel. Let him be a monster after the catch. Doing the same thing with George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk. Like, this team really is built for Jimmy G to just get the ball to his guys and run after the catch. This is what the offense is based off of. And they have some of the best receivers in the league. Like, imagine A.J. Brown on this team. They have, like, some of the best receivers in the league at doing that one job. I think Deebo can do other things. He's just utilized in a way where it shows off how damn good he is after the catch. So, yeah, that's that. I mean, like, Cam Newton was shit. Jimmy G wasn't that good either. Like, it's been this game. And most of the other games of the season, he hadn't looked that great. Like, he was okay against the Pats. He was bad against the Raiders. Amazing against Seattle. Then he was bad against Denver. And then bad against 49ers. Like, maybe Cam isn't that great anymore. I mean, but Jimmy G wasn't that good either. I don't know. Cam isn't that great. Like, this team could be potentially, like, terrible. I just looked at Cam's season stats. He has 2 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. That's interesting. Like, I don't think he's that bad. Like, that stat line is terrible. Like, I think he's better than that, but yeah. Jimmy G, on the other hand, I mean, I think that's the difference between Josh Daniels and Kyle Shanahan, because Jimmy Garoppolo was playing at a similar level, if not worse, than Cam Newton. But Kyle Shanahan is so much better than Josh McDaniels that that the statistical output is still going to be great. Like Jimmy G is putting up an 8.2 yards per attempt, which is 8th in the league. Putting up 8.2 yards per attempt, which is 8th in the league, despite having like one of the lowest ADOTs in the league. It's just a bunch of running after the catch, scheming up some open throws, and Kyle Shanahan's just a mastermind. He's one of the best play callers, and like the Pats don't have. So Cam Newton's stats look bad. He looks bad because they're not making it too much easier on him, like Kyle Shanahan. So yeah, but this game was an absolute trouncing of the Pittsburgh of New England. And let's go on to a more exciting game, far the best game of the week, maybe the best game of the season, with the Arizona Cardinals versus the Seattle Seahawks. Cardinals, the team that I have been talking about being overrated all year, end up beating the Seahawks. And one of the weirdest games ever. The Cardinals are one holding call away from losing the game and one delay a game away from winning the game earlier than they did. And then Russell Wilson, I think Russell Wilson showed in this game that he's not as good as Patrick Mahomes. Like, he just made some mistakes that Mahomes wouldn't. Like, the 3 interceptions he threw, all his fault. All pretty bad interceptions. Left it inside for Buda Baker. The other one was, let me go to my notes. I have it written down there. I don't remember exactly what happened. One left inside on a quick out-breaking route. Another one, he threw it right to Patrick Peterson. And then Russ takes 2 sacks and then throws an INT in overtime, which ends up losing the game. Russ started the game off phenomenally. Ended it off not so great. Still making some really good throws. And the fact that the Seahawks made the right decision. And the fact that they made the right decision to go for 2 with 6 minutes left on the 3-yard line on 4th and 2, the fact they made the right decision to go for it and got it and still lost the game is really interesting. But, yeah. Maybe the Seahawks are a tad bit overrated. They are, a couple of, short yardage conversions from being, 3-3. The Pats had them on the goal line. The Cowboys were kind of close to beating them. They are dangerously close to being 3-3. They were a 4th and short from losing to the Vikings. They may be a bit overrated as well. Even though I do think they're the only team in the division that's actual genuine playoff contenders. I think the Cardinals make it, but I'm not quite sure who they actually beat in the playoffs. So, they just beat the Seahawks in one of the craziest games of the season. And yeah, this is probably the best offensive game they played. Kyler hit some pretty big throws, but they also got some lucky breaks, I guess. Like the KJ Wright play or Bobby Wagner, I think, when he hit the guy, and then it was a penalty, and then they ended up scoring a touchdown on that drive, I think. They got some pretty good breaks. They played a good offensive game, probably the best one of the season. Or the cleanest one of the season, I'd say. It didn't look terrible like some of the other ones. Not terrible, but it didn't look. I called it the Saints. I just called it the Saints offense. Saints West. Saints West offense. They just threw screens, hitches, and looked bad in the beginning of the game because they were throwing screens on 3rd and 10s, just giving up punts, and I'm not giving up punts, but just punting the ball and all that type of stuff. But then they just came back and they ended up winning the game, which is definitely something I didn't expect. Now next week they go up against the Miami Dolphins. They have a bye week because Miami plays up against the Rams next week, and Tua's first start, which I'll talk about more in depth in the preview podcast. I actually talked about it last podcast actually. So if you really want to hear it, you can go hear it, I guess. But yeah, on to the last game of the podcast: Rams versus Bears. The Rams handily deal the Bears on Monday Night Football. I think I picked Chicago to cover. That didn't end up happening. We got a bad Foles game. No, a lot of people have been on the bandwagon, me included, of the Bears being kind of fraudulent, and they kind of showed that here today against a Rams team whose only wins came against the NFC East. So, yeah. Foles missed a ton of throws, and more earlier in the game. Missed a ton of throws. Wasn't great throwing the ball until like the second half, where he hit some big ones to Allen Robinson, but he still got away with a lot of things though. He was hyper aggressive. He was throwing the ball down the field a ton, especially in comparison to Jared Goff on the other side, who didn't throw the ball down the field at all. Really, he was super conservative. It feels as if they ran. It feels as if they ran play action on 100% of Jared Goff's dropbacks, which is interesting. It's good play calling, but it was a really low ADOT, high play action type attack again. I don't have the numbers on it yet, but it felt like they ran play action on literally all of their passing snaps. So, yeah, like a play action of some sort. Jet motion. That's just good play calling, though. McVay's a good play caller. But it's also interesting how McVay has done the same shit every game for the past 3 years, and it somehow works every game. That's interesting. That's interesting in itself. But it was just an overall solid game from the Rams, defensively and offensively, I guess. Foles kind of tried to throw it away to them, so maybe let me not give him too much credit on defense, but yeah, the Rams with a pretty clean performance for the most part against the Chicago Bears. They ran the ball pretty well. The Bears were really never in this game at any point in it. So, yeah. The Rams are basically in control since, from kickoff. It never lost control of the game, as they end up beating the Bears 24-10. And, it was a pretty dominating performance. And, yeah. But this is the end of the podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed. Like, subscribe, comment, all that type of stuff. Follow my Twitter. It's all in the thing. And, yeah, I'm out. Peace.